Blog Talk Radio.
Carol the Coach. Sex, love, and relationships. We talk about it here.
Carol the Coach. Compassion with contemporary relevance.
I am a psychotherapist. I can be your personal life coach, and I can help you with your issues. There are no problems too small or too big. You can talk about anything.
Speaker, columnist, radio TV host, and commentator. Carol the Coach brings messages of wellness and empowerment within reach of everyday people every day.
Almost 5 years ago, I lost my soulmate in an accident. He was killed in a plane crash. Life just, for me, has seemed to stop.
There are groups all over the city. I teach one. It is a specific way to start thinking so that you shift how you see the world, which then shifts your energy, and then you feel better and you actually see things differently.
Carol the Coach. Always available, too, at carolthecoach.com.
Now, I've got Russell on the line.
I'm 47 years old. I'm a truck driver. I'm married. I have a wife in San Francisco.
Okay.
I haven't been home in 6 months. My thing is, I don't know if I have a sex addiction or what the problem is. Why do I want what I can't have? And as soon as I can have it, I don't want it anymore.
You're right on target when you say, I don't know if I have a sexual addiction. Well, guess what? Yes, you do. And you know what? That's my specialty, Russell. So you're at the right place. Continue.
I meet women online, and I'm in a different part of the country. I travel all 48 states, so I love sex.
I hear self-esteem issues. You never felt good enough, and you didn't feel like you were getting what you should have then, and you're reenacting that now. Do you want to change that about yourself?
You get what you need. Oh, yeah. Hey, I know that Russell really wants to know what he can do to get better, and that's what this show is all about. It is about sexual addiction. It's about all types of addiction, and how do you prevent relapse? What do you do to make a difference in your own recovery? Now, you know we have listeners who are addicts of all types, sex addicts, partners, and we have a lot of clinicians that listen to this show to get more education. So tonight I'm really excited because we're going to be talking with Sean Leadham. And Sean and his father, John, have put together a program that teaches us that relapse is preventable. So, Sean, welcome to the show.
Hi, Carol. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is a really exciting program. Talk a little bit about the course itself and who is eligible to take this kind of training.
Absolutely. The course itself was put into a book called The Ounce of Prevention, A Course in Relapse Prevention, which was designed to help the end user figure out that relapse is a process, and through a series of assignments throughout the course, they end up learning what it is they look like in each phase of relapse, and so that they can then be able to intervene upon his or her own relapse process. But we wanted to go further with that, Carol. John and I wanted to develop products and services for those who are of service in professional capacity to those who are struggling with relapse. And so we decided to design trainings around how to implement this course more effectively. We developed 2 trainings. The first we call Relapse Prevention Navigator Introductory Training, and that is, in that level of training, the participant is going to get an intimate understanding of what it means to relapse and view it as a process, and use that insight to help end users develop highly individualized relapse prevention plans. The second,
let me get this straight for a second. Can I just check in with you about something? You definitely feel that relapse is preventable. And so this introductory course teaches, it's a process that can be identified, intervened upon, and prevented. And you teach people how to understand this process. You just described kind of the stage 1, and now you're going to talk about the second part of the course.
Well, it's the second level of training, but Yeah, absolutely. We have seen time and again that one relapses because they've made a decision to turn to the only solution that they ever found worked for them. When he or she has attempted to cope with the discomfort in his or her life, but has been unsuccessful in addressing that discomfort, if they are in fact addicts, they will return back to their drug of choice. And so what the course is designed to do is to help them see how it is that they are in fact coping or failing to cope effectively with the discomfort that's in their life, so that the intervention, by the time that they get to developing their interventions, they will see how to select interventions that are intimately tied to the types of discomfort they experience, the ways they typically would address that discomfort, and how to make changes to those strategies that were ineffective. And we really wanted to... Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, you and John put together, your co-creators of Plotting a Course to Sobriety, a model for relapse prevention. So together, you two have over 50 years training and mentoring, and you're really wanting to take this to the next level. Now, am I assuming that people who might be interested in the training to be able to identify and assess and prevent relapse, they can go through CRPN1, which stands for Certified Relapse Prevention Navigator?
Correct. Yeah, if they are interested in attending a training, they will attend first the introductory training, which walks them through the course that we were just talking about, Carol, so that they can have a real intimate understanding of how that course works, and then they can bring their own professional experience to bear in helping those they serve move through that coursework and help them develop even more highly specialized interventions. So that
Sean,
first training...
I was going to say, this is really exciting. I don't know anything like it.
I don't either, and I don't mind tooting our own horns, but I haven't seen anything like it either. It's really exciting. We're launching our first training from everyone from clergy and pastors to therapists to recovery coaches, anyone who is interested in learning how to be of more service to those suffering from chronic relapse. Our first training is going to be in May 19th through the 21st in Plano, Texas.
Okay, so it is out in Texas. And again, give us the dates one more time.
May 19th through the 21st. And we have the distinct pleasure of having IAC SAS, which is Richard Blankenship's organization, co-sponsoring the event with us. They believe, as we do very much, in providing training to sex addiction therapists and others in the field. We have the support and sponsorship of the Right Step in Wimberley, which is a family member of the Elements Behavioral System, and they're really just as excited as we are about getting this off the ground.
Well, and it sounds like, at least from the reading that I did, for the last 3 years, this course has been used to address love and sex addicts, longtime smokers, compulsive overeaters, alcoholics, and drug addicts. So professionals working with folks that have those type of addictions can apply this relapse prevention with their clients.
Absolutely. We have utilized it for all various addictions as well as mental health disorders like depression. If someone wants to abstain from a certain behavior or series of behaviors or addictive process, this model, this course, can be used with them.
Now, how long does the course take to complete? Because I do know there's a CRPN 1 and a CRPN 2.
And so if you're referring to the certification process, the trainings are really the first part in becoming a certified relapse prevention navigator. And there are two levels, like you indicated. There is the CRPN 1 and the CRPN 2. If one were interested in gaining an intimate understanding of relapse as a process and how to utilize it with their clients or those they work with, they might end up starting with the introductory training, and if they're seeking certification, they would undergo mentorship, and that will originally be with John or myself or other staff we deem qualified to mentor them. And in that mentorship process, which is 15 hours post-training, Carol, they will be able to solidify their understanding of the content, and if any questions arise, they will have the opportunity to ask us as they are implementing it with their own end users. And at the completion of the mentorship process, they are eligible for certification if they've completed the mentoring process. The training itself for the introductory training can be taken as a standalone, Carol. If they're not interested in pursuing certification, they don't need to be attendees and participants in the training. For the advanced training, it's really focused on teaching the individual how to teach the course to diverse populations with varying degrees of insight and motivation in settings ranging from one-on-one instruction to group workshops. So if I were a pastor wanting to start up a support group within the church, or if I were a therapist wanting to start up my own relapse prevention program or group, I could do so with that level of training and related certification if they wanted to go that route. The certification process really does not have to take very long. They can take the training and then immediately jump into, provided that they are utilizing the course with somebody they are working with, to complete the 15 hours as soon as they want after taking the training.
So, Sean, how can they get information about the CRPN training as well as the certification? Where do they go?
Great question, Carol. If they are wanting to learn more about becoming a navigator and becoming a certified relapse prevention navigator, we invite them to go to our website. Our website is www.leadhamcounseling.com, and when they get there, they would select service pillars from our navigation menu, go to Beacon of Hope, which is our pillar and our all things philosophy for relapse prevention. And from there, they would find everything they wanted to learn about becoming certified. If, however, they wanted to register for the upcoming training, they would go to our associates at IACSAS's website. Their website is www.sexaddictioncertification, that's one word, .org /relapse-prevention-conference. They also
Got
have
it.
a phone
And I'm just
number.
going to, oh, you do. Go ahead and give us that phone number.
So they can be reached at 470-545-4380.
Okay, well, we have to wrap up, but I just want to repeat. Initially, if you want more information, go to www.leadham, and that is spelled LEADEM, counseling, COUNSELING.com. Look for the Beacon of Hope, And you can always call Sean at 732-797-1444 and contact me at Carol the Coach today, and I'll be happy to pass on that link. And if I'm not correct, we're going to talk with you again in a couple of weeks, kind of repeat this information and get more understanding about how unique this is and the benefits of becoming a navigator. Correct?
Absolutely. I look forward to it and so grateful to have the time. Thank you, Carol.
Okay, Sean, you take care, and I can't wait to talk on the 28th. We'll talk to you then.
All righty. Thank you.
All right. Well, that was Sean Leadham, and again, he is sharing information about the specialized program, How to Become a Navigator. Relapse is preventable, and he and John Leadham want you to learn how. Now, tonight, I'm thrilled to be talking with Dr. Ken Adams, and you know he's been on the show before. He is the author of several books on enmeshment. I wanted to address enmeshment again because so many of the listeners have this issue, and they believe that it's led to their sexual addiction. And then he's also going to be talking about a couples healing program at the Meadows that he's developed for those that are impacted by sex addiction. So, Dr. Adams, welcome to the show.
Carol, nice to be back with you. Thanks so much for having me. You have such a nice presence on the air here. I hope I can do the same.
Thank you so much. And, yes, I got to see your workshop on a lot of the couples work you're doing, and it's very, very exciting. But before we get into that,
okay.
I see that you've created some new short-term therapeutic intensives, and I wanted to know, before we go into the content, what's the value of a short-term intensive versus weekly therapy or, of course, residential or inpatient treatment?
Sure, that's a good question. I've moved a little bit more in that direction with some of the content of some of my services, as a number of my colleagues have across the country. And, I don't think, being an outpatient therapist from long ago, I don't think anything replaces the weekly thump of good individual psychotherapy. And for a lot of the folks who have been traumatized and have addictions, there's just no replacing that. And having said that, though, over the years, there's been a lot of specialized work being done in the addictions and trauma field. And years ago, people would send their clients to inpatient units. And it's got to be pretty costly, both in terms of time and money. So one of the things that has sprung up is this short-term intensive, anywhere from 3 days to 11 days. And people take special topics or certain topics, and they organize the content around a specific topic. And as opposed to a shotgun approach, right, where you come in and we fix everything for you, here you go into an intensive and the focus is very specific. So I think the advantage is just that. You know what you're paying for. You're going in and the services are organized around something very specific. It can be very cathartic and helpful and, of course, more cost-effective than, say, inpatient. However, there's still obviously a need for inpatient for a number of people. So the advantage is it's more specific and more cost and time effective. And I think it's a good boost to individual therapy.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And what I really know to be true is that oftentimes in outpatient therapy, it can really catapult where a client is in terms of their own work. Sometimes they seem stuck, and it's a way to really motivate them to work on issues that they can't particularly do in outpatient because they have to leave and get back to a very busy life. So 3 or 5 day intensives are just so valuable. And you've actually created some enmeshment intensives. So who'd be a good fit for that?
That was a nice summary. Well, enmeshment continues to be a topic that I feel strongly about because I think it's underdiagnosed, and yet it continues to be an issue for a lot of the folks who are into the recovery field. Oftentimes, folks who have been enmeshed in a relationship with a parent, for example, have been assigned the role of a caretaker, and they they've learned over time that their identities have been defined by this caretaking role, and they often don't see it as a problem. Not surprising, we see this kind of role in the therapy field, in the healthcare professions, and I've been trying to draw attention to it because I think there's a lot of good folks out there who are still burdened with the weight of enmeshment. And so these intensives that I've designed for enmeshment for both men and women are for folks who are trying to get out from under inappropriate guilt and loyalty to the role of being a caretaker at the expense of their own life. And it's a very specific topic, and I think it's a lot more common than people really come to know.
Oh, I agree 100%. So for a listener who may not know what enmeshment is, how would you define enmeshment?
So enmeshment is a family systems term, and it describes family systems or family members who are too dependent or overly close with each other to the point of losing their individual realities, and that closeness, well, what looks like closeness, which is really engulfment, frankly, it interferes with the advancement of their own personal interests sometimes. We'll call it self-actualization, borrowing Maslow's phrase, and it also almost always interferes with the primary relationship, because the man or woman who is enmeshed with their family or parent almost exclusively puts that parent or family system above the partner or spouse. So that's the primary disturbance, is the interference with romantic relationships. Now, there's a lot of cultures that will look like they have enmeshment as a normative. And certainly we do see that sometimes in first generations, people who have survived, wars and persecution often will, of course, band together and circle the wagons and by necessity, if you will, quote unquote, become enmeshed. But over time, particularly in our culture, it's critical that one learn to be autonomous in order to get at the kind of rewards that our culture offers.
Oh, I agree. Now, right now I'm talking with Dr. Ken Adams, and he has written the Bible, I think, of enmeshment, and it's called When He's Married to Mom, How to Help Mother Enmeshed Men Open Their Hearts to True Love and Commitment. And so many of my clients that come out of treatment, your book is a staple because it really gives them permission to break away and not feel that guilt and sense of codependency. Do you believe that you talked about how enmeshment can be a part of certain cultures and certain situations. So how do you distinguish between, that pathological enmeshment from non-problematic enmeshment?
Yeah, and maybe the way to think about that is to save the word enmeshment to describe that which is pathological versus being close to a family that you grew up with and are close to. So, I think you can be close to a family, your family members, mother, father, sisters, brothers, and not be enmeshed. You can see them regularly, talk to them regularly, but you have your own identity, and your loyalty is to the system or family or relationship that you've created, not to them. And they understand that, and they don't, while they may be disappointed that you're not available and you're not vacationing with them anymore, they understand and support your independence. And they value that in you, and they support that. And they don't make you feel guilty for doing what is in your best interest. That is the critical line, is don't make you feel responsible and guilty, and demand either implicitly or explicitly that you sacrifice what you want to do so you don't disappoint me. That's when we move from closeness to a dependency, that where the child or adult begins to stay enmeshed, over-involved, merged with the parent's needs at a cost to their own. That really is the line. The parent, the family member, makes them feel guilty and responsible for what is not theirs to be responsible for. healthy systems, even though they may be close and see each other regularly, understand that people put their own spouse or partner first. Not only do they support that, they celebrate that. They see that as a wonderful, important thing. So that's the difference, Carol, and I think that's probably the critical marker.
Well,
does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And basically then what I heard you say, the two most important elements is that there is that sense of individuality that is separate from enmeshment with your mother or father, and you then have a loyalty to your own situation, your own family of origin, and that trumps extended family. And so that's how you can tell the difference. Because other than the individuality and the family dysfunction, there are other problems associated with being enmeshed with a parent, are there not?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and the primary is, is this sense of guilt and loyalty, so that you wind up feeling as if you have to continue to extend yourself in the service of others to the cost of what you're interested in. And we see some differences, by the way, between men and women. And one of the things I've noticed, for example, you know, we're doing these enmeshment intensives in May, a couple of colleagues of mine and I wanted, people have been asking me for years when are you going to get assistance and support and services for women enmeshed with their mothers or fathers? And a lot of my work has been focused on men. So finally I took up the call and I helped design one for women. And what's interesting to me is the men's enmeshment, the folks who have enmeshment who are men are quicker to sign up than the women. And I thought to myself, now what is that about? And I think for women, one of the issues is that women are so accustomed in their gender role to be associated with caretaking of others that they don't recognize it as quickly that it's off the mark, and they shouldn't be as identified with that. And so my suspicion is there's a lot of women out there who have had a lot of losses in their lives, and loss of primary relationship, addiction issues, not really living their own potential. These are the kind of common consequences we've seen. And they don't recognize that their continued fighting with their enmeshment with their mother, who keeps demanding that they come over and take care of them, or maybe their father who treated their daughter as the girlfriend or something. They don't recognize, because they're so gender identified with caretaking, that's really off. And men may be quicker, or even the therapist may be quicker to identify in a man that, hey, you don't have to take care of everybody. So we probably 5-to-1 in terms of the rate of signups for men versus women, which is unusual in the self-help field. Often it's more women who are seeking assistance than men.
Yeah, that's really interesting, but that makes total sense in terms of their socialization. So now, tell me how you feel that enmeshment plays into addiction, because we certainly see a high correlation of sex addicts who come from enmeshed families.
We do. I think that's absolutely true. And so when you think about enmeshment, one of the things there's two things that occur that contribute to sex addiction. One is the sense of entrapment, right? I can't go and have a date with Susie because my mother's going to be jealous. And I can't tell you the number of stories that I've heard, in this case from men, but I'm going to assume women have also had these stories where the mother is overtly jealous of the man's new girlfriend. And so he will not go on the date, or he will pick somebody he can't have a relationship with. That's one of the things that men and women do who are enmeshed with their parents, is that one of the ways they stay out of the bind of having to leave the parent is they'll pick a partner that they'll never work with. It's doomed for failure from the beginning. You say to yourself, why did that person marry that person? Because there wasn't a future possible. And that allows them to stay loyal to the parent. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. And so addiction offers this sense of escape and freedom temporarily. So we'll get enmeshed men, for example, who will pursue one-night stands and prostitutes or masturbation and fantasy because it feels like I'm free. And your clutches can't reach me here, Mom. I'm free, and you can't have my sexuality. The other thing is that sometimes the particularly if the man is heterosexual, for example, and he's enmeshed with his mother, sometimes that closeness can feel a little too close and begin to feel a little erotic and begin to push up against the incestuous taboo. So sometimes there's an overstimulation in the man's template, and he begins to get conflicted. And so he's both repulsed by the closeness and drawn to the closeness. He develops what we call ambivalence sexually and emotionally going forward in romance. So we get a lot of ambivalent men. So the sexual addiction sort of allows this sense of freedom and potency without the risk of being engulfed. And we'll see that with women.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Too.
Uh-huh. Well, how do you see it with women? Yeah, tell me a little bit about it.
So with women, we'll see when she's. It's interesting. The women who have been their daddy's girlfriends are different than the women who have been their mother's husbands. And those are related pieces. Both feel entrapped and loyal to the parent, but one has won over the princess role, shall we say, the one that has been over-sexualized, over-idealized, over-romanticized, and so she may very well take the same path as the men we see in these situations. Sexual addiction, multiple partners, seduce and reject. If I can seduce and reject you, that means I'm not trapped, right? I can't reject my mother or father, but I can reject you. Women who have been their mother's surrogate partners or husbands often lose out on the idealization from the father. And the mother may draw the daughter in to sort of aligning with her anger towards the man and getting her trapped in the middle. And so the daughter begins to sort of take on the mistrust, even sometimes the anger toward men. Again, we're talking heterosexual here, although things are similar, although some shifts when you have gay or lesbian identities. So we'll see in these women who are their mother's surrogate husbands have equally a difficult time with bonding, say, with a man, not because she's busy seducing and rejecting. It's that she doesn't trust or admire the man because of the mother's injury. So she's loyal to the mother. She stays with the mother at a cost to being with her own relationship because of what's happened to the mother in the marriage to her father. So we have designed, for example, the intensive to accommodate both sets of these women because we know their stories will be a little bit different going forward.
Absolutely. And one more time, you said these intensives are being offered in May. And how does one go about finding out about them, getting in contact with you, and signing up?
Well, I think the best way to do that is to just go onto my website. The easiest, I was listening to Adams talk about all the contact, and I thought I was getting lost, and I said to myself, I'm not going to give all these identifiers. I would just go to Dr. Ken Adams, drkenadams.com, the website, and that'll get you in there. We're doing them May 12th through the 15th. These intensives have become my favorite things. If I could do these all year round and nothing else, it's probably what I do. It's been wonderful to watch the men break free and to have a sense of experience of not being obligated or burdened, and to have the breeze of life on their face, so to speak, maybe for the first time in their lives. And we've had some very powerful moments with these men. I've had men from all around the country, Japan, Australia, Russia, Canada, who have come to these intensives. We do them at a retreat center north of the airport in Metro Detroit. and we do them twice a year. The next one is in May 12th. The men is almost full. I'm just a couple slots short. This is filled up quicker than it ever has before. The women is occurring at the same time. I'm involved with both, and I have colleagues who are helping me. And we do have room in the women's intensive, and the same focus is on the women, trying to help women break free of feeling burdened with caretaking others at a cost to their own life and learning to have some autonomy and separateness from their parents who have engulfed them. So May 12th through 15th, drkenadams.com. The website will get you right in there.
Excellent. Well, I would encourage anybody to take a look at his website. Do more than just think about this. If you know that he's speaking your truth, it is a quicker way to get through a lot of the resistance and feelings of guilt and sadness that you may have to actually work on the problem. And let's face it, you're kicking it. You are rocking when it comes to developing programs that are needed out here in the community. You've actually got a whole nother couples healing program that you've actually designed and started at the Meadows. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And it follows my growing sense that the more that you take complex problems and create topic-specific, content-specific intensives, allows people to get at some sense of competency and accomplishment and to develop hope, which is very much missing in groups of people like couples affected by sex addiction. So, yes, I have designed a couples healing intensive at the Meadows. In fact, that's what it's called. It's called the Couples Healing Program. And it has 3 separate intensives. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm very hopeful that this is going to reach the community and people are going to learn about this. This is, as far as I know, the first attempt to move treatment of couples into sort of a residential type setting. It's not residential. It occurs at their workshop ranch, which is a beautiful setting. And these 3 intensives are designed to help couples get at the core issues that are involved in recovery from sex addiction. So they occur at the Rio Retreat Center. So we're very excited about that here. And what would you like to know?
Well, obviously, this intensive was needed, and so I want to know what's unique about it. What teases from other couples intensives, and what can our listeners expect from working as a couple and heading over to the Meadows, which is, of course, is in Arizona, Wickenburg, Arizona. What can they expect?
Well, good question. So I think what's unique about this is that it's couple-focused, even though it very much helps the partner and the addict separately. But the focus is always on the coupleship. So, I think as a community, CSATs and other therapists who have dealt with sex addiction have become very skilled at assisting addicts. We've become very skilled at assisting partners now. And a lot of the focus is on the individual as clients still. Now, there's a lot of good couples work going on. Don't get me wrong. I have good colleagues out there doing couples work. But one of the things that hasn't happened is kind of packaging it all together so that a couple can do the major chunks as a whole. So one of the things that I noticed in the therapy community and the client community is a lot of couples have been stuck at this stage in their healing process where they're trying to move forward. So maybe they've done disclosure of sexual secrets, and so the reality has been put on the table. Maybe they've done an impact letter, the partner to the addict, and the addict has done a sincere set of amends. So the basic sort of initial task that you see in couples has been accomplished, but they often are stuck in trying to go forward, because one of the things that couples try to do is they try to go back and have the initial romance. And the truth is that if your coupleship has been impacted by betrayal, mistrust, sex addiction, lies, deceit, it really isn't possible to have the same romance. Because the reality of deceit and betrayal is a piece of the fabric of that relationship now. So the task becomes, how do we grieve together the loss of that romance and then create a new template, a new, I don't want to call it a contract, that sounds a little too legalistic, but a new couple's narrative. And so what I said when the Meadows approached me about designing an intensive, I said they wanted me to do disclosure. I said, I want to do all three pieces. I want to have a place where the couples can come and drop in and be able to do one. So intensive one is discovery, from secrecy to transparency. That is exclusively about disclosure. So a lot of therapists have become much more competent at doing disclosure on an outpatient basis, but many of us have discovered it's very traumatic. So sometimes it may be that the couple needs a place they can go to for 5 days and do the disclosure and be settled and not be distracted by life. So we have that option at the Meadows now. Intensive 2 is impact, from recognition to amends, and this is where a couple now focuses on no more questions being asked about the deceit. So basically the couple has decided and they're secure that the story has been put out. Now it's time for the partner to say, hey, this is what's happened to me. I need you to know that. And so the intensive 2 is a focus on the partner trauma and their need, her need, his need to state that, write that letter to the addict. The addict then in turn does an amends and restitution letter. And all the while in both of these intensive, there's a couple's recovery plan being developed and expanded. There is Tai Chi and yoga, lots of grounding and regulating feelings, and lots of attempts to do that, lots of education, small ratio of client to therapist. It's only 4 couples that are allowed to come into this. And then intensive 3 is recovery from grief to hope, where we do take the couple through the grieving process. And that's what's not happening, I see. I mean, it isn't as if it doesn't happen. It's just not happening a lot. We assist and support the couple to grieve, which is really hard to do, and then to develop a new narrative of how they're going forward. And some of them may decide to go forward separately. We're not going to get involved with that. We're going to honor whatever narrative they develop. So the idea of the whole the 3 intensives is to allow couples to pick and choose wherever they're at. They could drop into any one of these, provided they meet the criteria, or they can put them together as a package. And we're having our first one in next month in April, and it's going to be the disclosure one. So we're very excited about this. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say one more time, then the date for that, as I'm looking at the information, we're talking about April 17th through the 21st?
That's correct. I think it's the 22nd.
And that's intensive 2, which, of course, one of the things I'm so impressed about, I am just being trained and certified as an APSATS therapist, and that specifically is partner-sensitive training. You know, we want to identify what the trauma is, and we don't want partners to feel as if they have not been prepared to know how to handle an emotional restitution letter. And so I'm real excited that this model, Intensive 1, 2, and 3, seems to really follow some of the same training that I got. And, you know, I always think that if the addict carries the it's the partner that carries the pain, you know, and so you've done a really nice...
That's a very good way to put it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. That curriculum really looks like it will work with both people simultaneously to create that healing and then the reconnection.
Yes, and we understand, and even though I say it's couple-centered or couple-focused, by the way, we had to bump up our date, so the April date is actually the disclosure, so we're 1 month behind there. I think you might be looking at the original flyer there. And so we're going to start with disclosure in April and then impact in May. But even though it's couple-oriented, it's very much, we understand that it has to be partner-focused in many ways. In other words, if we can't bring the partner along in the early stages, we never get to the grieving. And so there has to be a lot of validation for the partner. And so a lot of the education modules and a lot of the stuff, when I was designing it, I had to go back and I had to be careful to make sure I didn't forget about the addict. For so long, the services for sex addiction and their partners was too focused on the addict and not the partner. And so as I was designing this, I found myself exclusively focused on the partner, and I had to go back and make sure I kept some balance so that the addict wasn't tumbling unnecessarily into shame, which doesn't serve anybody.
And for those listeners that don't know, Dr. Ken Adams has a partner, and what is his last name? Your partner in Michigan.
Well, I have a variety of associates. Is that who you're referring to?
That's what I meant, associates. Because you did a workshop that talked about treating the addict and the partner, and historically, unfortunately, so residential treatment, inpatient, has focused on the addict, which is absolutely great, but the partner's been left out or has not been supported in the way that she needs to. And what I love about these intensives is they are so partner sensitive. And, I know one of the questions our listeners may ask is, well, my therapist has talked about maybe referring me to somebody or wants to do a disclosure with me. And I, as an outpatient therapist, do disclosures, but sometimes it is much more beneficial for them to have the stabilization and safety of an intensive where they're going to get follow-up day 1, day 3, or 4, or 5.
I agree, and I think as a therapist or as a consumer, you just have to make that decision. Do you feel it's better to do this in your therapist's office for a couple hours? Because that's really the most you can typically get. They might be able to do a half day with you, but oftentimes outpatient therapists will arrange for the couple to drive separately, maybe stay apart that night. There's a lot of arrangements that have to occur. And then to do it properly, you really have to prepare them. You have to prepare the addict not to make excuses. You have to consider the use of a polygraph. So one of the things that happens in our disclosure, for example, is an optional polygraph. It's up to the couple, because there are controversy around polygraphs, and I think couples need to know that. And even a past polygraph doesn't guarantee that all the truth is known. And sometimes partners will get too dependent on polygraphs. And you have to be really careful. So we decided to make it optional.
I 100% agree, and you've got to have a polygrapher that you really trust, who's very sensitive to sex addiction, knows the questions, knows how to do that. And I assume that in your intensive, you're working with people to bring out the truth, and so that partners aren't hearing this information for the next 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever. This is to get it all out and work on, again, that recovery from grief to hope. So if I can ask you, obviously Meadow felt like they needed these intensives, and they consulted with you. What do you think? What do you think makes this so unique from other programs across the country? It's interesting. Richard Blankenship says, people putting out intensives, and they don't have the structure that they need.
Yes, and that I think the structure is there. So now we have the benefit of the auxiliary services. We have the Brain Center, for example, at the Meadows. We have the yoga classes, the Tai Chi, the stuff that helps people ground themselves. And you have the benefit of being able to be there at 4.5 or 5 days and find yourself supported by a community, a therapy community, as well as the people you're working with. And so I think what's unique about this is it's a package. It's the initial arc, right? People talk about, well, when do we get to examine the other issues, right? I mean, our coupleship is more than just sex addiction, right? And so, and I think what I wanted to do is I wanted to design a package that would allow couples to get to that point where now we have a bit of an even playing field. And how do we get there? You do the three major core tasks: disclosure, impact amends, and then grieving and reconstructing the narrative. Now we can talk about what are the underlying issues that affect this coupleship. So you have to take a couple that's been impacted, a partner that's been impacted, a couple that's been impacted by sex addiction, and help them get back to a starting point that where there isn't just the organization around the sex addiction betrayal. And you'll see this with couples. I mean, you must see it in your practice, is that what happens is the whole couple's narrative now is organized around the betrayal, the deceit, the recovery, and it doesn't seem to let up. And so how do you get someplace where you can potentially have an additional narrative? Not that you forget about the betrayal or that you don't check in about it, but at some point, when is our coupleship also about something else? And I wanted to create something that would allow people to get the initial chunk down. And so this is the place. And I also wanted to create it so that people could pick. So let's say you have a couple and maybe they've done disclosure and they've done the impact, but they're stuck with trying to move forward. Or you could just come in and plop them in intensive 3 in the Meadows. You don't have to do 1 and 2. So I wanted it to be a place, or maybe you've decided that you just need help with disclosure because this couple is just too explosive. Okay, well, now we got a place for that, right? And it fits into a bigger package. That's what I think is unique. It's the overview. It's the arc of the focus that I think has all 3 pieces. I know there's a lot of colleagues out there doing very good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but they're focused on disclosure or they're focused on impact. I wanted to do all 3 pieces in one package. So I think that's what's unique about it. Yeah.
So again, how can our listeners contact you or the center to figure out, what the next step is?
Well, I think that in this case, you certainly are welcome to get onto my website and send me an email and ask me a question about that program. But if you want to learn more about it and find out how to get screened and go through, you'd want to contact the Meadows and ask to speak to somebody about the couples healing program.
Got it. So get on the website of the Meadows and ask about the specific program. And you call it the Discovery to Recovery program. It's an intensive series for couples healing from sex addiction. And like you're right, I was looking at the very first flyer. So dates have changed, and again, the intensive number 1 is in April?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, that's correct. That's intensive 1, which is the focus on disclosure. But if a couple's done disclosure, you don't have to not consider other parts of the program. You can come into further dates. So May will be impact and amends, and then June, I believe, will be the first round of the couples grieving and reconstructing the narrative. And I will be involved in the first pass of these. I won't be involved afterwards directly, but I will be involved. I'll be teaching the classes, and I'll be sitting in on the disclosures and sitting in on the groups and welcoming folks in the initial get-together. So I will be involved in the first pass through, if that makes a difference to folks.
Absolutely. And, you can take the different intensives separately and pay for them separately. You do get a deal if you go through all 3. You can contact the Meadows by their phone number at 1-800-244-4949. So, Dr. Adams, this has just been fascinating. Obviously, many, many resources for our listeners. And again, you said if they have any questions, they can contact you by getting on your website, which is Dr.
Sure.
Ken Adams.
drkenadams.com, and just, send me an email, and I'll get that email and we'll respond. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I look forward to hearing more about these intensives, and of course, everybody really benefits from your books, and so I know that this recovery enhancement intensive for mother enmeshed men is just going to be amazing. And I'm so excited you're working on treatment programs for women, because we all know that they have had historically much enmeshment that has kept them locked up inside. So thank you so much.
You bet, Carol. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right. You
Bye-bye.
take care, too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I was just talking with Dr. Ken Adams. Obviously, a wealth of information. I hope that you all will look into the programs he has to offer. I know as a fellow SAT, he's a CSAT supervisor, but we go to him to learn how to build our practices, learn about enmeshment, and I attended his workshop on couples healing. His associate, Nicole, partner, his associate Hope, was wonderful. And they're just a very sensitive treatment team that really knows community needs and puts together programming for the community. And, that's what this show is all about. It's about getting you to the right services, whether you seek somebody individually, whether you work, with them through Skype or through phone coaching, whether you're looking for a recovery coach, a CSAT. I mentioned APSETS, which is the partner-sensitive training program. We're out there to learn and make a difference and make your life as comfortable as possible as you navigate through the shame and the pain and become the best person that you can be. That's my mission. And as I say at the end of every show, there will only be one of you at all times. I want you to fearlessly have the courage to be yourself. You spend a lot of money on these addictions. Now get out there and get the help you need, because this is not a dress rehearsal. You only live one. Let's make it the best life ever. All right. I will catch you next week for some more sex help with Carol, the coach. Have a good one.